Hey, what's up there, my Youpreneurs? Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Expert Chit Chat. I'm here with probably one of my best buddies on the planet, Lee Dumas. You really do not need an introduction nowadays, do you?
Yeah, I don't think so.
He really doesn't. Entrepreneur on fire, in case you've been living under a rock. How are you, man?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited to be here today and ignite this world.
He does ignite this world quite regularly, actually. In fact, every single day with his podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire. But I wanted to talk to you not about podcasting. I want to talk to you today about webinars. And let's not beat around the bush here. The insane success that you have had with webinars in the last 12 to 18 months or so in building your business and ultimately money. I mean, the money you've made, the revenue that you're experiencing on a monthly basis right now is insane. You've averaged, and correct me if I'm wrong here, around $200,000 a month for the last year or so. Last month, you did over $400,000 in 1 month. Yes, there was a special offer involved there, but just the fact that you're making $400,000 in a month out of webinars and building lists from webinars, et cetera, is a massive accomplishment, right? So, first of all, congrats.
Thank you.
Secondly, how the bloody hell are you doing this? What is going on? Where are we all going wrong? What's happening here, right? I want to know, I mean, like, the whole podcast is Paradise thing and everything. I know the backstory on there. Give us it anyway, just as a real kind of digest version, and how webinars became so damn important for the revenue that you guys are generating now.
So I was really excited that you wanted me to talk today about webinars, because that to me was really the launching point of the revenue side of Entrepreneur on Fire. Because as you said, we have the great podcast, which built a great audience. And I was able to listen to that audience and hear what their pain points were, which
Talk about that all the time.
wanting to create, grow, and monetize their own podcast.
Right.
And that was the birth of Podcasters Paradise. If you had asked me back in 2012 when I launched, John, like, what are you going to be monetizing in a year? I would have said, probably products around business. I'm interviewing entrepreneurs around business products. So let's, maybe create something.
I even think we had this conversation. I'm pretty sure we did at a conference, and you did. You said, starting a business or kickstarting or relaunching a business and all these things, which were sort of recurring themes, right, that were coming up quite a bit on the show. But now you go in a completely different direction.
Well, so I was taking the themes that my guests were sharing, and that was huge, and I was learning a lot of knowledge about that. But there was my listeners who were saying, John, love the podcast, getting so much information, but how can I do something like that in my niche? And so I listened to that pain point, and I just said, hey, there's an opportunity for me to build a community around this. And so that's where the idea originally for Podcasters Paradise came. So created the Podcasters Paradise initial launch, which was just a minimally viable product. I just said, hey, I'm going to have the bare number of video tutorials, a community, etc.
So I'm curious, let's break this down for a minute, right? How many videos did you launch with? How many tutorials did you launch with?
And I think this is a great learning point, 0 and 0.
I love it.
Because what I did was I said, listen, my audience is telling me that you want this right now.
Right.
I want to create this for you, but I want you to put your money where your mouth is first. So I'm going to just hold, and it was my first ever webinar, and it was really bad. And I had, about 100 people on it, and I said, listen, this is what I'm going to create. This is the information I've gathered from you over the last 6 months. This is how I see the community looking. It's also going to be built with you. I'm going to launch in 45 days. If I do, on this webinar right now, $5,000 in sales. If you're not willing to put your money where your mouth is and be an early bird access member,
Forget about it.
Then forget about it. I'm going to go on to option number 2, 3, 4. I'm going to wait till something is right where people are willing to vote with their wallets. So on that webinar, I had 35 sales at $200. That was lifetime access to Paradise.
Okay.
But that was for something that didn't exist yet.
$200.
Yeah.
Okay.
For lifetime access.
Let's fast forward. How many months are we talking about here?
Total where we're at now?
Yeah.
We're at month 17.
Okay. So what is it now to buy in?
$1,200.
Okay. So it's gone up by $1,000.
Yes.
Okay. So you go from $200, absolutely nothing. Just the concept. I'm going to do it. You've asked me for it. I've listened. Now I'm going to create the solution to that problem for you.
Yeah.
It's $200 to get in. You're grandfathered in. Bing, bang, bosh. Boom.
Off to the races. But this is the great part, and this is really key, is that 35 people raised their hands and said, yes, I'll pay $200
Validation.
to validate this.
Right.
That won't be ready for 45 days.
Look what I've just found down here.
Wow.
What's going on
here?
here?
One of two. Cheers.
Cheers. There's never a bad time to interrupt an interview for a shot of scotch. Okay.
And so nothing existed at this point, but I had 35 early bird members of this, the founding, I call them, the founding fathers and mothers. So I went for those 45 days, and I had them around me, and I was asking them questions, and that's what really was Podcaster's Paradise when we opened the doors 45 days later with just those 35 people, but the price on opening day was double what it was. So now we're up to $400 for lifetime access. So I told them on that initial webinar, you're going to get a 50% discount for being early bird access member. And that is what really brought those 35 people to the point of saying, okay, I want to be a part of this. I think this is going to be big. I'm in. So we got those 35 sales, worked with them for 45 days, opened the doors on day 45, which was actually Halloween of 2013, October 31st, opened the doors and said, hey, now Podcaster's Paradise is officially open. It's $397. Who wants lifetime access to this?
Okay, so you launched properly. Was it everything that you expected it to be when you launched in terms of the, like that second wave of sales?
So that second wave of sales was amazing because we did a great job in those 45 days of building up an interest list, turning people away and saying, sorry, we're in beta mode right now.
Right.
Very similar to what Pat did with Smart Podcast Player.
Sure.
Great scarcity. And we built up this great interest list, and when we opened the doors, we said, hey, this is only going to be at $400 for the next month. And then the price is going to go up again because the value that we're putting in here is immense and incredible. So we had an awesome and massive initial launch on October 31st of about another $25,000.
So how long after that? So you did the beta launch, then the official launch. Mm-hmm. How soon after that official launch do you say, you know what, webinars, this is our thing?
So pretty soon after that,
you see, like I want to make more money, right?
We saw the big spike in sales of that interest list,
right?
And then things kind of started to tail off. It'd be a sale here, a sale there, a couple sales a week. And I was saying, man, like I know that people in Paradise are loving it, but now we're at the point where it's $500 because a month had gone by, and now we're at $500 for a lifetime investment. We weren't offering payment plans at this point. So it was a decent initial investment for people to get into Paradise. And I understood that. And I said, why are we not doing more sales? Number one, because I have a large audience who wants the podcast. Number two, like I'm starting to understand that people are getting to this sales page and they're saying, wow, this looks good, but it's $500 and I don't quite get it because it's just a sales page. It's a static, not living, not breathing, just a static page. I had a video on there, but I mean, it was just your plain vanilla sales page. And that's when I really started sitting down and saying, what can I do to market Podcaster's Paradise in a better way?
Right, and in an ongoing fashion.
In an ongoing, consistent fashion that's answering questions, removing barriers that people are having from making that purchase, and also educating people and exciting them about the opportunity that's podcasting that both you and I have experienced. How can I do that in an effective way? So
webinars are obviously that effective way. What I love about webinars is that you get the opportunity when you're doing them live like you do, and I know that you've tried kind of automated webinars as well, which have worked but maybe not as well, and we'll bust that down in a minute. But I mean, webinars give you that opportunity to engage in real time, and I think that's golden. I mean, I really do. I mean, if you're a used car sales guy, and I'm not talking about the snake oil guys. Hey, this is the best car I've ever got in my life, man. All that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, put your arm out the window, the chicks will dig you, and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm talking about is like, full on, in front of people, showing them what you do, what the benefits are, what the features are, handling objections right there on the webinar, like you do. That's old school sales. And then the close almost happens as a natural conclusion to that webinar process because you've gone through the hills and the peaks and everything you need to get to that point. Now, you said the first webinar you did was a little ropey.
A little ropey.
The second one probably a little better. The third one a little better after that. And I've sat in on one of your webinars.
Really?
You remember because you called me out.
Oh, okay.
You said, Chris Tucker is here. And it was probably 7 or 8 months ago. And you were, to use a popular JLD colloquialism, on fire. You were on fire. You were on fire because at that point you had done this
30 or 40 times,
right,
at least.
Okay. Now, the first question, yes or no answer. Do you get bored of it?
No.
Okay. Second question, yes or no answer. Have you ever said to yourself, oh God, I just can't be bothered with it this week?
No, but I can qualify.
There was a little hesitation there.
Well,
okay.
The qualification is because I've never actually not made at least 20K on a webinar.
Right, so that kind of balances out, doesn't it?
So I can
do the webinar, make 20K.
Think that for a second, but I'm like, if I do this, which I do enjoy because I love the presentation aspect of it, I love the engagement, and it's an hour and 15 minutes, and I'm like, who am I to not do this when 20,000 plus? You know, sometimes it's 30 or 40,
it's
depending on the
stupid not to do it. Stupid business, right? Exactly. Okay, and this is, at Youpreneur, we're all about taking responsibility. I mean, that's what we do as entrepreneurs. It's down to us to build our business. Yeah, we can delegate, we can outsource, we can hand off tasks, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to us. So the fact that you say, you know what, I'm an idiot if I don't do this once a week. And that's what, is it still once a week that you're doing it?
So no, it's not, but that's something we should definitely be talking about because it's an interesting transition that happens.
Okay, so tell me about the journey then. Let's not go too deep dive into it, but like from where you were a year ago to where you are now, every week at first.
Yeah.
And then, and live.
Live.
For that matter as well. And now we're here and we're not doing it every week live. So what are we doing now a year later?
We're doing once a month with an every single day streaming webinar 3 times a day, 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. in the local time.
And this is automated?
Automated.
So no more live webinars at all?
One live webinar a month.
Okay, so one live and then every single day, boom, 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 boom.
There's a
So how are you now driving traffic to get people to opt in for those webinars?
So there's a lot of different ways that I now have to drive people into opting into these webinars. And something that we did in the beginning of 2015, which was a huge game changer for us, that really brought us to the $430,000 a month, that brought us to that 150.
You say that. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, carry on.
What brought us to
I'm just going to call it.
Yeah,
it's ridiculousness.
What brought us to the $150,000 4-day Paradise sale was I created a completely free podcasting course, which is now our biggest generator of interest into Paradise. So I was the end of 2014. I did 60 live webinars in 2014. So basically from January 1st of 2014 all the way to the 31st, I did one a week, and every now and then I actually did 2 a week, which brought me to 60 live webinars for the year, which was intense. But you hear a lot of people, like I hear Chris Brogan, he talks, I did 134 speaking engagements in 2013, and he's
all over the place, traveling like crazy.
Think about the traveling. I'm flicking on my Google Hangout for an hour and 15 minutes. Standing with my mesh shorts, and just an Entrepreneur on Fire T-shirt. So an hour and 15 minutes once a week is not as insane as a lot of people make it out.
Not something, particularly when you're making the kind of money that you're making. Not something you should be moaning about.
So I'm always looking at ways to increase the amount of people that can show up at these webinars. So I said, what can I do to even take that to the next level? And that was when I sat down and said, I'm going to create a completely free, completely valuable, I'm going to make it a great podcasting course. And I titled it freepodcastcourse.com. And people have to opt in via email. They go through a 15-day email sequence at the end. It's a complete course. It just says it's creating, growing, and monetizing your podcast. And people launch their podcasts all the time just off that course alone. And a lot of my friends, our mutual friends in my mastermind, Greg and Rick, they said, John, that might cannibalize Podcasters Paradise because people might just now do a free podcast course and then they'll never join Paradise. And I said, that's possible, but I'm a big believer in abundance. I just want to put this out in the world. I know people need it. And in just the first 3 months, I've had over 9,000 people opt into that course and go through that course. So 5x the amount of people that are in Podcasters Paradise now, which is 2,200 people in Paradise. I have 9,000 email addresses.
So how are you getting them to opt in for that course? Where is the traffic coming from? Obviously, there's an opt-in form.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you getting people to that page?
So every third intro of Entrepreneur on Fire says, hey, go to freepodcastcourse.com for a 15-day course on how to podcast.
So that's a couple times a week.
That's
basically.
a couple times a week.
Okay.
Also, the sidebar of my website, the feature spot on my website, and I do Facebook and YouTube advertising.
Okay, glad you're getting down to this. So let's break this down a little bit. Facebook ads, monthly basis, ad spend amount?
$1,200.
Okay. And YouTube advertising?
$1,000.
Okay, so a couple of grand.
Yeah.
And that compared to, or rather coupled together with everything else that you're doing is getting you around 3,000 or so opt-ins on a monthly basis.
Yes.
Okay. So has this been going on long enough now for you to figure out roughly how much business you're getting from a month-to-month basis from all this extra work you're doing?
Yes.
And what is it?
So basically every
You know I'm going to grill you.
I know.
And that, you see, this isn't just a couple of friends hanging out over some
Right.
Scotch. This is for you guys as well. Want to carry on?
Every $14 right now, every $1 right now that I'm spending in advertising, I'm getting $14 back on the back end with these courses. But there is a key thing that needs to be mentioned here, because I do have, that's on the invoice total. Because I do have monthly plans for Paradise where you can pay $97 a month for 14 months.
Okay.
So there's going to be a percentage of those people that at month 3, 6, or 9, change their credit card or drop off and just stop paying. So, the real number is probably closer to 10 or 11, but right now it's at 14, and that's if nobody drops off.
But still, I mean, at 10x, and that's obviously, minus whatever time you're putting into this, which I know that you're a big outsourcing, proponent, and you've got an amazing partner in crime with Kate Erickson, and as I call her, the better half of the Entrepreneur team. And you've got VAs obviously over in the Philippines, which Virtual Staff Finder help you get and everything, which I know.
Absolutely.
But I mean, and that all helps. That all helps. But ultimately, it does come down to time put into this. So, month to month, how many hours are you working? So let's break it down weekly. How many hours are you working on a weekly basis?
Like me total, or just on the advertising?
You yourself.
About
in general.
55 to 60.
Okay, and I know it doesn't feel like work to you,
right?
Because you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there'll be some people tuning in right now that will be saying, "Man, 50 to 55 hours a week, that's a lot of work." How do you feel about that if somebody says that to you? I mean, could you cut back on it and still make the same kind of money, or do you think it would affect you?
It would affect the bottom line by some portion, but it would still be a definite six-figure annual.
A month
basis.
Right.
I mean, just Entrepreneur on Fire alone, I could just do my podcast, which is just one day a week, which was actually today. I did 8 interviews. And I'm at the point now, like a marathon runner, where I did 8 interviews for EO Fire today.
Right.
I'm ready to go. I mean, I can keep doing this all night now.
Right.
And it wasn't always like that, but I did build up to that. And just EO Fire alone is bringing in $70K just in sponsorships.
Yes,
So
that's a business on its own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty incredible. Okay, let's get back to the webinars then. So, obviously the first section of that webinar is all content. This is how great podcasting is. This is what you can achieve through it. And then you get into the pain points a little bit and how Paradise can alleviate that. How do you go about crafting your pitch on a webinar? Because it's not like a telemarketing call when all you've got is your voice over the phone, right? That's my background, as you know, is in telemarketing. So, I think about the hook or, rebutting objections and things like that. But on a webinar, you've got visuals. I mean, this stuff is real. Like you can get into this. So how do you go about crafting the actual pitch where you're starting to ask for the money?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that's evolved with my
so
webinars.
Good, by the way.
Good.
Okay, keep going.
I mean, in the 60 webinars I did, one thing that was critical that I think all Youpreneurs should do is you need to send out a survey post-webinar to people that bought and didn't buy. And the survey is going to ask them questions. What did you like? What didn't you like? What felt right? What was the most valuable? What was the least valuable? And getting those responses and helping you craft and evolve your webinar is absolutely critical. And a lot of people are asking, like, why webinars? Like, what's the biggest thing about webinars? And something that you and I oddly have in common, and I'll get my drink ready for this for a cheers.
Hang on, I'm being summoned. Oh.
We're both...
Okay, all right.
We're both Boston Celtics fans.
Oh, yes.
Now, let's get a cheers and a little sip for that.
Green all the way, baby.
But the reason why I'm specifically bringing this up is because why do you want to go to an actual live game when you can just sit home and watch it on the television?
Right.
Well, because you're in the environment. It's an event. It's exciting. Other people are there. You're giving them high fives, etc. That's a live webinar.
I got kissed.
That's amazing.
By a very large Bostonian man. The last time I saw the Celtics play, he actually told me he was behind me, up on the stand behind me, and Ray Allen. This is a few years ago, unfortunately. He hits a three with like 13 seconds left, and we go up by 1 against New York in the first game of the playoffs, and we win the game actually by that 1 point. And this guy just scoops me up from 1 row down. I love you, man. He kisses me and everything, and it was quite. It was a little bit scary for a while, but I got over it, and I remembered he bleeds green. Yeah, just like
that was the year we won the World Championship.
Yes, it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
Get back to webinars.
Yeah, so it's the live event. It's
yes.
Like, you can't get scooped up by a big Bostonian man at your home in Cebu. It's just not going to happen.
It would be tough.
It'd be tough.
I'm not saying it will never happen,
right?
But you never know.
But we're there for the event, for the energy, for the excitement, and that's what webinars are. So there's a chat room. There's other people in the chat. There's you who's flicking on the video camera, and you're talking to people. You're calling out by name. Hey, Chris, Caleb, Greg, Rick, you're all here right now. Where are you guys coming from? You're saying their names. You're engaging with them. It's an amazing the connection that you can make right away. But then the webinar starts. And for me, it's 45 minutes of pure value where I'm just kicking it off to them, because I want people that don't join Paradise to leave being like, man, that was an hour of worthwhile time.
It was like, it was really worthwhile for me to take that out of my schedule.
Because I learned so much. So what I do from the very beginning is I create what's called open loops. And so throughout the webinar, I'm always saying something like on slide 3, and I'm like, and hey guys, in a few slides, I'm gonna be sharing with you this. But then by the time I get to the slide before that slide where I'm closing that loop, I'm opening another loop.
Love that.
So it's just this kind of slinky that's going down. There's always people like, what's
next?
Like, what is
it's like a soap opera, the cliffhanger. Every day you got to tune in. Right.
Like a great example of this would be, I say, and you need to be ranking in iTunes. Like, look, when I type in entrepreneur in the search bar right here, I'm the #2 result in all of iTunes for the word entrepreneur. And guess what? In a few slides, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But then before I get to that point where I show them, I've opened up something just as appealing that's a few slides past that.
That's good.
So I am slinking down the road.
Now, I want to know. Let's get inside and rip this open a little bit. Was it like that at the beginning of the webinars?
God, no.
Okay, all right. So this really, you're 30, 40 webinars deep right now. And these things are like, oh, this works. So I did that. I did that 2 webinars. Okay.
It was huge. Like getting the feedback from people about what was valuable, and then also just evaluating myself. And I actually, in Webinar on Fire, my course, I actually have my first webinar and then my most recent webinar next to each other. And I tell everybody, I say, listen to the first one and then listen to my most recent, because like everybody's like, John, you're so good, you're polished, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I've done it 60 times.
Yeah, enough said.
Enough said. But if you go back and watch my first one, it's tough, for me to watch, but it's really encouraging for other people to see how far I came in just a year.
So let me ask you this. You launch this thing, you get it out there, you've got a couple of 100 members, you see these things starting to build up, you see that webinars are really where all the action is at. And then, now a year later, here you are, an average of maybe $250,000 a month. Yeah. You're featured in Forbes and Entrepreneur and Inc. and Housekeeping Today. And he wasn't really featured in Housekeeping Today, but you probably were. You're just not aware of it. You were everywhere for a while, right? And then you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to do this live anymore. Or I'm going to do it live just once a month. That's a huge risk right there to potentially lose that income, right? Mm-hmm. What happens?
So at the beginning of 2015, I was like, I'm all about experimenting. I love trying different things. And I knew that there was a definite opportunity, that I was missing out on. When I only had one webinar a week at a specific time, not everybody can make that webinar. And so I knew that I could potentially offer a lot more people to watch this webinar, which could potentially increase conversions, could potentially increase the number of sales, keep them the same or less. It was something that I wanted to experiment with. So I got in touch with a good friend of mine, Casey Zeman, who's the founder of Easy Webinar, and we spent a lot of time. And we crafted an automated webinar sequence. So now when people are going through free podcast course, they have the opportunity on every email to watch a streaming webinar that day, one that I've recently done.
So you record the webinar as kind of like a screencast.
Yes.
Almost. Okay.
Except it's streaming, which I think is a really important difference. So people,
it's not downloadable or anything.
It's not
like
downloadable.
That. Okay.
You can't press play. You can't press pause. If you show up at 3:10, it's 10 minutes in.
I like that.
So you're making people be accountable for that. Because if you allow people to press the pause button, they will.
Yes.
And they'll never press the play button again.
I like that. That's good. And you're not misleading them. It's not like you're saying that it's live. You're just saying it begins at...
It's a streaming webinar.
Okay.
And it starts to stream at 3 p.m.
Okay.
8 p.m. And they can have 3 choices throughout the day, their local time.
Okay.
So I started doing that, and to be honest, for the first time now, we were having sales on days that weren't live webinar days. Like if you go back over my big list, it's like 00030
spike
5 00000 because we'd have a little replay day as
well. Right.
Now you look at it and it's 4 6 3 2 4 9, and it's like all over the place. But every day there are sales coming in. Whether we probably average 3 sales a day right now is where we're averaging. And that's really coming from the streaming webinars, which is really impressive.
So you're still averaging ultimately what you were doing week to week per se, maybe a little less, but not a lot.
I'd say we were probably averaging 140 sales a month in 2014, doing 4 live webinars.
Okay.
Now we're probably averaging 150 a month doing the streaming and then one live webinar. But there's a key. My audience is bigger now. I have free podcast course. So to be honest, those numbers aren't as big
it's a little skewed. Right, okay.
So I will say this, and this is something that's going to be happening soon. We're moving very quickly, actually as soon as we get back from Cebu, we're moving to a twice a month live webinar, because that's how big of a believer I am in live webinars. I've always been a big believer.
Right.
I thought I could get away with one a month, going back to 2.
But this is what I love about you, and allow me to stroke your ego for a minute here, just a little bit of stroking. He actually wants me to stroke him like a puppy dog. No, this is what I love about you, because you're always testing, you're always pushing the envelope, you're always trying new things out. You go week to week to week, and then you go monthly, and now you realize, you know what? We could be doing a little better here. Let's just go back one step. Let's go twice a month, and it helps.
Yeah,
it makes a big difference. So I've got to ask you this as we wrap up here: that first month that you did 200 grand.
Yeah.
Was that a little bit shit your pants scary? Because it's a lot of money that we're talking about here. $200,000. Most people, the very, very large, I'd say 98% of the population don't even make that in a year.
Right.
And you're doing it in a month from the comfort of your own home. Does that scare you a little bit? Or were you like, you know what, I deserve this. Like, I brought it hard and I deserve it.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people do struggle with financial success. I've seen it. We've all seen the Dateline.
I've seen it from people as well.
And the Dateline videos of the lottery winners, and they blow it and they're worse off a year later, XYZ. I grew up with a very strong financial family, and I was taught really early the value of money, and I always knew what it was like to be well off. So for me, I just look at that as extra padding for future security. It's going to allow me freedom to continue to do what I want to do. So nothing has really changed in the last year, despite the fact that $2 million has come this way. But nothing has really changed in that year that wouldn't have changed if I had made $400,000 or $500,000.
Sure.
So I think that it does scare some people, but I will say that it does not scare me.
Okay.
It just doesn't scare me. But I do want to
making money does not scare.
It doesn't scare
John
me.
Lee Dumas.
I do want to make a point before we wrap up, though,
because
you asked a specific question about converting people towards the end of the webinar. I think that's a great point.
How did we get away from that?
Yeah, it's just
That's
us.
an important
That's what
one.
we
It's
do.
just us, yeah.
So, I've been doing those open and closing loops, exciting people on the way, giving them incredible value. I do live training on there where I'm actually showing people how to step one and step done of a podcast. Like, I'm giving them so much value during those first 45 minutes. Then we get to the point where I'm like, listen, let's take a deep breath. I've just given you 45 minutes of awesomeness of how to create your webinar, launch your webinar, grow your audience, monetize, all of these things. You have everything you need. Plus, I'm giving you as a gift my book, Podcast Launch. Since you're still here right now, here's my book. Here's the link for it.
I'm on the webinar right
So,
now. I'm feeling it.
This is what's called reciprocity. So now
Okay.
I've just given them a completely free gift. It's the #1 ranked book in all of Amazon. I make sure they know that. And then I say, so now I'm going to take you guys into paradise. And because of the webinars, this is an amazing opportunity with webinars. I'm able to share my screen, log into paradise, and take people through every section of paradise.
Like a test drive.
It's a test drive.
Right.
I'm showing them the create videos, the grow videos. I'm showing them all the videos to monetize, the resources page, the webinars where we've had you as a guest. Tim Ferriss, Chris Brogan, and James Altucher are the last 3 exclusive guests that we've had for Paradise alone. Then I do my own Q&A sessions every month. I take them into the Facebook group that's just for Paradise members only. There's over 1,800 people in there now, and I show them the engagement that's happening.
Right.
1 minute ago, 30 comments. It's like,
yeah.
boom, I'm showing it to them right there.
Right.
And then I come back and I say, let's do a price breakdown. If I was to offer you all of this, individually, and then I go through some math, I won't bore you here, but I say this is basically a $9,000 worth of value. And 2 of those things are actually $1,000 a month in value. The webinar with me and the Q&A with my guest. Every single month. So this is $9,000 in value. I'm going to offer it to you today, and then I give them the price, which at the time of this recording is $11.97, or 14 payments of $97. And then I get down and I say, listen, and I flick the video on at this point. And I
So
say,
this is you.
This is me now,
Okay.
looking in the camera's eyes, and I say, I want to tell you 3 truths.
Do it right now to that camera.
You will never be able to join Podcasters Paradise for lower than you will be able to join it today. This is the lowest price you will ever be able to join Paradise
Scarcity.
for. Ever.
Right.
The price is only going up, and it will be going up soon. Number 2, we are taking away lifetime membership, and it's going to be an annual recurring membership. It's going away, but if you join now, you're grandfathered in, and you will be a lifetime member of Paradise.
Switch camera 3.
And you have a 100% money back guarantee for the next 30 days. So if you're even thinking, if there's even a possibility that podcasting is in the realm of your future in 2015, I don't want to call you stupid, but you would be stupid not to just join Paradise today, because you have 30 days to try everything out that I just showed you. Go watch those video tutorials. Go check out that Tim Ferriss webinar. Go get in the Facebook group. We're going to assign you accountability partner. And if you don't like them, email me anytime between now and 30 days. You get a full refund, no questions asked. I'm going to wish you the best. I'm going to hope you have a great future. And I'm going to understand it's not for you.
There's the pitch.
That's it.
JLD in the house. Oh my God. I'm all fired up. I don't know.
Did you just buy Paradise?
I just bought it right now with my mind. My PayPal is ringing right now. No, seriously. I mean, the focus that you've put into this, and it's the perfect way to end the conversation, because it is honestly, it's all about accepting there are right and wrong ways to be able to attract the right kind of clients. Webinars for you turn out to be the right way. Now you're driving this traffic via Facebook and Twitter and social and everything else that you're doing, throwing out the free course, creating the opt-in, list and all the rest of it. This is what the word hustle embodies. I mean, this is what it is. The 50 hours a week now, I believe, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 12 to 18 months from now, I believe you'll be working half of that time and still making the same, if not more, money, because that's naturally the way things that progress in the world and the mindset of the Youpreneur. I'm a big believer of that, and that's what I'm suggesting is going to happen to you.
I respect your opinion. And
But I'm still going to be working 50
No,
hours a week.
I
'cause
hope-
I love this shit. Right.
I hope you're right.
Okay.
I really do.
All right. We're going to see each other before the next year,
I hope so.
so you can keep me up to date with it. Everybody, John Lee Dumas in the house here at Youpreneur. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to find out more about him, get on his, honestly, get on his mailing list, see how he's doing this, because there are very few people that are building businesses online in this fashion.
Who's doing it better?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were going to say somebody.
Well, no, I don't know.
Okay, thank God.
Otherwise they'd be here, wouldn't
Right.
they? Not you. Don't. Jeez. Look at him. So anyway, Entrepreneur on Fire, get on this list, see what he's up to, and I will see you next month with another very, very special guest here on our monthly Expert Chit Chat. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Take care for now.